Come on, children, let's read further. We will read the chapter line by line, and I will explain its meaning after every paragraph. We will read it louder. I will read it here, and you will read the chapter at your home. So, shall we begin? Sometimes his mother made a face with a lump of dough, using a matchstick to make two dents for eyes, one for nose, and then a series of dents in a small smile shaped line to make a toothy smiling mouth. Here, dents mean a shallow deformation in the surface. You remember when we get dents in the car just because of an accident? Yes, it is the same dent. Now, his mother, what does she do? She takes a lump of dough and it is just like a clay. So she makes different faces of that dough with a matchstick, with a stick of matchstick, and she gives it nose, eyes, and other shapes, and it becomes like a toy for the small kid. Now let's read further. When she gave him the dough and told him to make the most beautiful thing in the world, he rolled the lump round and round in his chubby fingers and thought and thought and thought. What was the most beautiful thing in the world? It was his mother, of course, or possibly his father, but he couldn't make them out of dough. Besides, they were not really things. He rolled the damp piece of dough round in his hands, thinking hard. Now, his mother has assigned him a work of making anything with that lump of dough, a sort of clay for the small child. And now she has asked him to make the most beautiful thing with that dough. Now he's thinking, now the little boy is thinking what to make with that dough. He is interested in making the shape of his mother, but he cannot make mother or father out of that dough. Now he loves his mother the most, so he doesn't want to hurt her because she has said to make the most beautiful thing. And he cannot make mother's face on that dough. And besides, for him, mother and father, they are not things, they are living people, his own life. So he rolled the damp of peace again and again and thinking what to make, but he cannot come to any conclusion, final conclusion. So he was irritated. Now let's read. Then Ramchand's father called out to his wife from the shop, "Please come here." He shouted to his wife as courteously as one could shout. Ramchand's parents were old fashioned. They never addressed each other by their names. Now the child is busy in making and thinking the shape of what to make from that dough. In the meanwhile, Ramchand's father was calling his wife, Ramchand's mother, to come to the shop because he needs her in the shop for something. So he shouted his wife. He did not call her name because they were old fashioned and they never call each other by their names. So let's read further. Next paragraph now. She turned the stove off, put it and the matchbox safely away on the upper shelf, and threw a sharp, anxious glance at him. She was terrified about the stove. She had heard so many stories of children having accidents with them. But ever since she had told him about Chuhu, he seemed to be keeping his distance from the stove. She had not even planned it. It had just come out when she had finished making a perfect little mouse and had realized it would be difficult to give it whiskers. Now, what happens next is Ramchand's father has called his mother, so she went away to the shop. But she was very much worried, careful about the stove and the little boy also. So she carefully put that matchbox and other things which can cause harm to the little boy on the upper shelf so that Ramchand cannot reach the matchbox lest he does any harm with that matchbox. But now she's satisfied because she has told a imaginary story of Chuhu, the little mouse, to Ramchand. So he's afraid of that stove now. Chuhu is an imaginary mouse, a girl mouse, which she has made from the lump of dough, but she finds herself unable to give it whiskers. You remember whiskers? Hair on the face of animal, particularly near mouth. So she finds herself unable to give it whiskers. So she made an imaginary story that when Chuhu goes near the stove, her whiskers they get burnt. So that is the story which she has told to Ramchand, and Ramchand is very particular about this story. So he never goes near the stove. Now let's read further. She smiled, untucked the pallu of her sari from the waistband of her petticoat, spread out the pallu, adjusted it around her shoulder, and looked at her son. He was still absorbed in the piece of dough. Feeling he was safe, she went out to the shop. Apparently, her husband needed her help to look for a new tin of black pepper that he had misplaced. They found it after about 10 minutes, and Ramchand's mother went back in to continue with her cooking. Now Ramchand's father is calling his mother. So mother adjusts her sari and she goes out to help him. Father has misplaced some black pepper tin, a container which was carrying the spice black pepper. So they both are searching the tin, which they get after 10 minutes. So the mother comes back to continue with her cooking. She is worried about Ramchand also. If he gets nearer to the stove or gets himself burnt, so she's scared of that thing also.